soup store. Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. Here with me I have some more RPG horror stories. I was thinking actually, it's been a hot minute since we've done any sort of Q&A. I think we should do some Q&A, maybe like live on stream, maybe even have Mary tag along. I think at some point I'll make a channel post sometime at some point on this channel, and I'll ask you guys for some questions that could be answered by both Mary and I together. So look out for that at some point. Nevertheless, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. DM misinforms a player about character creation rules. Gets mad. The player noticed. I joined a gaming Discord server and apply to join a new campaign. I make a character. Attend session 0. Later, the DM says the first session is postponed. I assume because there aren't enough players, only 2 showed up in session 0. Later, I join a chat, and the DM shares he lost his job, and the game is on hold until he finds a new one. Understandable, though perhaps he should have been more forthcoming about this information. He invites me to join another ongoing campaign of his, since all the information is on the game page, gives me a link. As for character creation rules, he says 2014. He also mentions that the party has 3 characters who can heal, but they could use another one because the party is struggling in combat. I don't want to disrupt the conversation I join any further, so I'll go follow the link he gave me and read. The page is mostly about campaign tone. It doesn't mention rules at all. On the campaign Discord channel, I look up and find a player asking the creation rules and the DM replying is 2014 rules. I make a sorcerer character, write a backstory for her. I check out other builds. First, because as a sorcerer, I don't get to pick and choose my spells every day, I'm stuck with whatever I pick for the whole campaign. So I'd really rather not pick detect magic if someone already has it. Second, I'm curious on what's going on. Why does the party have 3 healers? I need another. Third, I want to understand the builds they're going for. A class and a race doesn't tell you much. Same class could be played as a tank, damage dealer, a controller. Maybe some are planning to multi-class? I'm aware there's a small minority of players who prefer to be private about their character sheets and wouldn't want me to see theirs, but in my experience, they are very rare. A lot more uncommon are new players who appreciate a hint here and there, or make a mistake on the sheet the DM missed. Steve, it's your turn. You see a zombie shambling towards Clark. What do you do? I think I have a crossbow somewhere. Let me check. Meticulously crossbow searching sounds. Oh no, I don't have one. I guess I just move forward it. Pity I don't have any way to reach it. Do you have any javelins perhaps? Most barbarians start with javelins. They can be thrown. Oh right, I have javelins, thanks. That's the kind of thing I use my meta knowledge for. That's not even meta knowledge. I like it's just starting equipment. Is that considered meta knowledge? I don't think that's considered meta knowledge. Is it? Is it meta knowledge? I think they just try to be helpful because you're just offering advice to like, hey, maybe you have javelins? You start as a barbarian. Also, a healer barbarian? Okay, hold on a second. I don't get what that means. A healer, a barbarian don't really make sense. A healer, barbarian is a meat sponge for when it comes to like as a character. I don't think there's any subclass in there that has any kind of healing capabilities. Perhaps maybe wild magic can have like where you provide a little bit of AC or temp HP to your allies and stuff, but I don't think it provides any healing in the slightest whatsoever. I think it's more like as a tank there in particular. This already is described really weird. The party has quote-unquote 3 healers, but they're struggling. But one of the healers is a barbarian that probably doesn't offer any healing because I don't know if any subclass, like I guess default subclass barbarian offers any healing. Is there one? Am I missing one? Barbarians are great tanks. They're fantastic tanks, especially if you go like bear barbarian, but even then, any barbarian could be a great tank regardless of what subclass you play. Yeah, I'm lost. I'm confused. Why is the party having such a hard time? Maybe it's a bunch of new players that don't know what they're doing, right? It could literally just be a bunch of new players that don't know what they're doing, and that's why they're struggling in combat because they aren't aware of what the class can do. Maybe the barbarian, God forbid, doesn't know that they can rage, and the other healers, or I guess a cleric, or maybe I don't know if there's a cleric at the table, but let's assume there's a cleric. Maybe a cleric doesn't know what healing word is. They just have cure wounds, and they think the only way they can heal is through like through a main action instead of a bonus action or something like that. Maybe that's what's going on. Who knows, honestly. This is already a little bit confusing, but let's continue. The whole "we have 3 healers and need more" story makes me suspect mistakes have been made somewhere. So I check, search all the private people, but after a session or 2, I figure out most of your stats either way. First thing I notice is most characters are made by 2024 rules. Another thing that stands out is 2 characters have a speed of 20 due to wearing heavy armor at low strength. So ask the DM if you're playing by 2024 rules, after all, since most characters are made that way. And if he even works at 20-foot movement speed, there's any homebrew rule here I deserve to know. Maybe my sorcerer can wear heavy armor too. DM responds by getting mad at me for looking at other characters' sheets. I say I won't look at them as long as he looks at them and makes sure nobody is cheating or makes mistakes. He then explains that he has some homebrew character creation rules where they start as 2014 characters at level 1, but gain further levels as 2024 characters. Explains is a generous word. The man's grammar is atrocious, his writing borderline unreadable. I don't normally apply to games run by people whose writing is that incoherent, but his game invitation was written well. In retrospect, clearly by an LLM. I'm teetering on the brink of quitting as soon as I hear about there's a horrible mess of a homebrew that I was never warned about, but I never get the chance. I get kicked out. Apparently it was terribly disrespectful of me to imply my DM might not know what's going on in his players' character sheets and to look at them. He actually published the recordings of his sessions, so I checked them out of curiosity. During the very first combat, he was like, "Don't you have resistance to slashing damage because you're a paladin?" And he had to ask if every attack hit because he didn't know the player's ACs. So no, he clearly didn't know much about the character sheets. But how horrible of me to notice. That sounds like an incompetency at the highest extent of it all. This is an incompetent DM that has no idea what's going on and is getting mad that somebody is apparently knows more than they know, because they probably think of themselves like, "I'm an authority here. I'm the DM. I'm supposed to be the one that knows everything, and how dare you call me out on that? I'm the DM here. I'm allowed to know things and you can't know things because that's a metagaming." When the DM is clearly incompetent. Look, if you play D&D long enough, you kind of start learning about what every character is, and you already know about those stats already because you kind of can intuit that sort of thing. If you have enough knowledge about D&D, you figure out another player's build, even if you can't look at the character sheet, very quickly. When you just see somebody roll the weapon attack, you immediately know what their strength or dexterity modifier is immediately by the modifiers and the additions they have. Using this process of elimination, it wouldn't be that difficult to determine what specific character is playing depending on what they're rolling already from then on, or be able to discern what somebody is depending on what proficiencies they got or what features they're using in that regard. If they're using meta magic, most likely they're a sorcerer unless they picked up a feat for extra sorcery points or something. If they're using channel divinity, they're probably a cleric or a paladin, and depending on which channel divinity they're using, you can kind of determine which one you are. But this sounds like a DM that has helped players build together characters that are quote-unquote built for healing, but the DM has no idea how to help them build because they're over there in the recording talking about, "Don't you have resistance to slashing damage because you're a paladin?" At what point does paladin get slashing damage resistance? Unless they're a barbarian paladin? No, not by default, not by themselves, unless the 2024 rules add something crazy to paladin. This just sounds like an incompetent DM that is trying to lead a bunch of new players that don't know what they're doing whatsoever and is getting mad when somebody is there saying like, "Hey, I don't think that's the correct thing," or "Hey, don't you have a javelin you can use?" I feel like it's a DM that wants their players to know exactly what they're playing, even though the players have no idea what they're doing whatsoever. Or there could be a possibility that maybe the DM sort of knows what they're doing, but considering the fact that they don't even know what kind of resistances their players have in particular in that particular regard and stuff is a little bit concerning. You know, it's very, very concerning. They could be asking like, does it hit, in order to be coy and stuff. I know sometimes the DMs like to do that and everything, but like at the end of the day, I use Foundry, like, so I know when it hits as a DM and I know when it hits me as a player and stuff. Like, we both know. Let's not be coy about it. If the attack hits, it hits. Apply damage, let me use my reaction and go from there. But this sounds like a DM that has no idea what they're doing because they're saying we're using the 2014 rules, but everybody else is built around 2024 rules. People are wearing heavy armor even though they don't have enough strength for it. At some point, I feel like you need to, as a DM, back away from here and reread the rules or go back to putting your nose in the book and start trying to understand what is going on before you run the next game again. But the thing is, the other players are not going to be able to say anything because they probably don't know what's going on and stuff. And the one player that can say something got kicked out because apparently knowing a little bit of general information about the other character sheets is now metagaming and is frowned upon or something. That is the problem. The player that is pointing out the inconsistencies, not the DM that is running the game into the ground, and the poor helpless players are left floundering it. This is a disaster of a game, and honestly, this DM kicking you out, OP, is a favor they're done to you. your best bet is to, I mean, if you really want to, you could try to see if you can reach out and contact those players and say, hey, I don't think the DM knows what they're doing. Here, let me explain you the rules in general so you guys know what the hell is going on. But like at the end of the day, I feel like it's just gonna be too much of an effort for you. I say your best bet is to honestly treat it as no D&D is better than bad D&D and find a different table to play at. What are your thoughts in the comments below? Let me know. We're gonna get to the next story for today. Player takes Backseat GMing to a new level. This is something that happened to me a while ago while I was a new GM just starting out. I was jamming play-by-post in a server that has a much more experienced GM and writer than me. He was the problem player and I'll call him Hero. He allowed me in. The server was meant to be a hardcore narrative and had all kinds of games run in it from sci-fi to fantasy. I played a few games with Hero and another player as a GM and had a lot of fun. So I asked Hero if I could run a game on my own. After running my game, advertisement for the game, and plots through him, he accepted it, and the first game went okay. I was a new GM and made several errors, but all of my players, of which Hero was one, agreed that they had a good time on. I got the bug of GMing from that and decided to run a new game soon after. Hero and his boyfriend were the two players, as scheduling for play-by-post short form can be a nightmare with more. The story centered around a cursed disease that should have been cured, but now had one last sufferer who should have been cured by the goddess of medicine when they ascended, but for mysterious reason hadn't. The task of the player was save this girl / stop the world from ending, with the server being naturally very open-ended as to the plot. Hero made a hero, a girl who had divine blessing upon divine blessing stacked upon her since birth, who saw herself as nothing more than a killer who purged the filthy and who wielded a divine sword that incinerated everyone in the vicinity. This girl was annoying to run for, to say the least. I got a question for the people that know or have experience with play-by-post. Are there any ground rules for play-by-post, or is it just like whatever goes? I feel like if you're gonna be doing a play-by-post, I feel like there should be some sort of ground rules. Like, you know, like D&D has ground rules specific to what you start off with, and you know, it can be adjusted depending on the parameters that the DM will allow. The reason I'm saying this is I kind of feel like because Hero is like the person that led the OP in, is probably gonna use the seniority or the fact that they know more to basically create some overpowered power fantasy character in a play-by-post, which sounds strange to do so, but people have done most weirdest things out there in VR chat roleplays anyway, so it's not like I can't foresee something like that happening. But typically in these situations, are people set up with some sort of ground rules they're allowed to build on, or is it just like whatever goes, everybody makes their own little make-believe characters and DM runs their make-believe sessions of play-by-post and stuff? I don't know. I feel like with a lot of play-by-posts that we've read so far, you know, the last couple years that we've done these YouTube videos and stuff, holy hell, it's been a couple of years. That is insane. But anyway, regardless of that realization, I feel like the couple of stories we read regarding play-by-post, it sort of kind of seems like anything goes, and I feel like that lackadaisical approach towards like a more relaxed quote-unquote system or can make play-by-post seem a lot more chaotic than they really are. Or maybe they are indeed chaotic. Maybe that's the intention behind it. There's supposed to be this chaos power fantasy that everybody can just kind of chaotically power play their character and roleplay however they want to. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue. Most of the NPCs were in some way related to the disease or the cult worshipping it, so interactions became either combat, of which no one in the game had much interested in, or the hero going, "You're filth and I'll kill you." I tried to throw moral dilemmas such as a villain using real people as spare bodies. I'll simply kill them all. I tried to have some question of faith. I don't like how you assuming that she's changed her path at all. Every single thing I had for them to engage with includes a little prophet they worked for going, "Hey, before you go scorch earth, can you try to investigate the disease first?" was met with, "They're single-minded." Meanwhile, the other players made an enigmatic ninja type who basically never spoke much and who didn't explain why they did what they did, but who saved the lives of few characters from Hero's character. My attempt to draw them into conversation also thwarted. Honestly, it sounds like you should have said something ahead of time, because it sounds like the players are just basically making characters of like, I could do no wrong, I'm just smite things for the sake of smiting things, and the other one just kind of does things without explanation, because God forbid you need to have any kind of conversation when it comes to creating, you know, doing something for the character and stuff. It sounds like you have two players that are basically playing as chaotic stupid, and they're not explaining why they're playing as chaotic stupid. They're playing just, I'm chaotic good and I'm playing more chaotic than I am good. If you're playing more chaotic chaotic, then you're good, and you're focusing more on the chaotic aspect, you're not necessarily good in a situation. You just kind of do whatever. In fact, that's why I call it chaotic stupid, because they're just doing stupid, nonsensical things because chaos allows them to do so. They can just do whatever they want to. The characters are best as ever, and they don't have to explain anything to anybody at all whatsoever. And just, there's no conversation to be had. You are a blight, and I'll slay you kind of characters. Anyway, let's continue. I'd like to note that throughout the campaign and my previous one after sessions, Hero had been giving me notes and feedback. In this campaign, it became active feedback mid-session. Oh, this character shouldn't say that. It's kind of boring. This is good for the character arc presented. Can you rewrite this? Sorry. Wait, hold on a second. If a player decided to say, oh, this character shouldn't say that, it's kind of boring to me, I would immediately say like, yo, hold on a second. If a player in a regular D&D session decided to say out of nowhere to me mid-session, oh, DM, this character shouldn't say that, it's kind of boring, I'd probably be like, get the hell out of my table. First of all, that is rude as hell to say immediately right then and there. I don't mind feedback after the game, but now while I'm trying to put on like a fun session for you guys, jackass. Because that's such a jackass thing to say. Not every NPC is gonna say the most interesting stuff out there, but also alternatively vice versa. Sometimes the things you say, player, is not gonna be the most interesting out there. Are you really gonna be, if you're really gonna be doing that, imagine if a DM says like, oh, you character shouldn't say that because it sounds like a boring thing to say. Imagine DM saying that, dude. Imagine anybody saying that at a table, regardless if they're saying from a player to DM, or from DM to a player, or from other player to saying to the other player. That sounds insane. To give this kind of criticism is just to be an asshole, basically. For Hero to say this mid-session clearly shows that they think their ideas are better than whatever else you're trying to put on, and they're clearly giving you, like, asking you to rewrite something in real time, which is insane. What the hell? Can you rewrite this? Sorry, but tonight I'm not in the mood for low-quality storytelling. What an ass. Hero is such an ass, dude. At one session, he even sent me a video of how to write better and said, why don't you take a break to watch this video and then come back? Jackass. Literally jackass. Don't play with Hero. They sound like completely unpleasant individual. I rewrote multiple GM posts for the sake of how he thought I should run the game, as I'm a massive people pleaser and also struggle with my confidence in myself as a writer, respecting Hero tremendously, but with the way most of my plans were burning and the constant instructions to rewrite, things were draining on me. Especially since Hero and his boyfriend seemed to be pretty checked out during sessions, and would have the characters flirt with each other and make sexual jokes. Then things came to a head in the final session, where Hero's character had tracked the others down to a city and was going to kill the last afflicted, even if they had to kill every single person in the city. I had the girl eventually, after her own character arc and after seeing the massacre as hundreds of bodies burned, decide to give up her life to the hero, telling them, you can kill me, just leave this city. Once they were killed, I'd be able to move into phase 2 of the campaign and reveal a few lore goodies. I was so close to being able to salvage the campaign. Before you kill her, I want to duel you. The other PC stepped in and the two began their duel, fighting. This is a situation where I had no wins. I can't stop the duel or interfere since the players really wanted, and you should work it into your plan. Yeah, a player may want to have a plus 17 sword and 600 bags of holding and stuff, but doesn't mean I'm supposed to, but doesn't mean I should just give you that specifically. That sounds absolutely insane. As a DM, you're not like a dispensary for fun for the players. You are a player as well, and you try to also tell a story while the players are trying to tell their own stories as well. You're telling a story together in a collaborative storytelling medium that is a play-by-post. These players specifically, they just want to dominate the game and have you basically be at their beck and call and entertain them. You're not a DM for them, you're an entertainer for them. They're using you as an entertainment machine. I can't engage with the duel with the characters present, and I can't exactly have the NPC girl watch going, please don't kill people, while a collateral damage sword kills more and more people. There's nothing as a GM that I thought I could do in that scene. I tried 5 different ways to do something there, 5 different entire GM posts, and each time Hero told me, you should rewrite this isn't good, or something like that. Finally, I simply said, okay, I don't care. I'll have her do nothing. Enjoy your duel, tell me when it's over. And got a bit snappy. Hero's boyfriend responded with, after a display like that, I didn't want to duel now. I said that I couldn't deal with rewriting any longer, and that they could either duel or not. I didn't care. Hero then said that, I'm sorry, but your writing isn't compelling enough for me to engage with. And then I said, fine then, and ended the campaign. Looking back on it, I definitely could have been a better GM, but I've never dealt with that level of backseating before. It was genuinely soul crushing to have to rewrite my story constantly for the whims of a player who seemed more interested in flirting than playing, and who disregarded every hook or thematic beat I could give him. I was thinking this was going to be actual like GM backseating. This isn't GM backseating. This is just the player saying, you know what, GM, what you're presenting is not better. Give me better, GM. Experienced GMs in D&D, when they want to play as a player, they already have that experience of how difficult it is to GM already, and most would probably want to just make a character that works well with the story alone. Some way to cooperate well with what the DM is trying to put on. Some character that's going to fit, because they understand the painstaking process it is to try to get a game going and to have players tagging along or sometimes going against what the campaign is going for. So most GMs, I feel like in this regard, already have the experience of what it's like to GM, and they want to make the GMing for the GM that's currently running the game for them a lot easier by making a character that actually fits into the campaign and fits into the world. But not Hero. They want to be able to use the power and the knowledge they have, experience they have as GM, to basically start saying, my stories are so much better. You need to go back and watch this video to learn how to write them, because it doesn't fit their specific narrative that they want to go for. If you don't want to play as a player, just GM. If you don't want to play as a GM, play as a player. But if you're going to be playing as a player in someone else's game, you need to shut the fuck up and stop being such a dickhead about it. This player clearly is trying to run some sort of a game for you. This GM is trying to run a game for you. They're giving you hooks to interact with and to present with, but instead Hero decides, you know what, your stuff is so much more suboptimal compared to what I could write. I'm clearly a better writer. Go back and write more compelling. That's not feedback. That's just being a jackass. Constructive feedback is, hey, I felt that part was kind of weak. You could probably improve it by A, B, C, D, and give examples for that. Saying, this part is not compelling enough for me, and don't provide examples is not constructive criticism. It's just being a fucking asshole. And Hero is an asshole because not only are they not participating with the story that GM is trying to put on, they instead making a hero that basically goes over and does whatever they want, and they believe that the GM should bend everything that the player is doing to the story of their favorite bestest character ever possible. The great hero character, basically playing a main character in a specific situation. Maybe it's just a play-by poster like that, and I don't know what's going on, but it sounds like a hero just wants to play as a main character and have the story bent around their character. And if it's not something that involves their character, is focusing on their character alone, then I'll find it compelling enough of writing, and it's going to be just a jackass and just be mean to the OP specifically in this regard, which is such a dickhead thing to do. Jesus Christ. OP, you probably should have played with different players. I get you had respect for Hero, but clearly that respect was entirely unwarranted, because Hero just basically used that to lord over you and be able to control your game however they want to, be able to have the character do whatever they want. Hero is a jackass of an individual. While they were kind enough to introduce you into the game and show you kind of the general maybe ropes or maybe give you some hints here and there, they're doing it in the most assholish way possible. In fact, first of all, you never provide feedback directly mid-session. Telling somebody to be like, oh, this is boring, rewrite it right now, is such a jackass thing to say. Holy hell, I absolutely hate Hero for that. As a DM, I'd be like, get the hell out of my table if somebody were to tell me that, because I'm not interested in having to entertain someone's whims. I, as a DM, am also a player. I'm here to have fun. We all are here to have fun. None of us want to have a difficult time or give each other a difficult time. I don't want to give a difficult time to my players. I want them to have fun. Alternatively, I don't want my players to give me a difficult time either. I want them to also want to have fun with me. We're all having fun together, telling interactive story medium through an RPG, through TTRPG. I know this is a play-by-poster, but I guess the same effect applies regardless. If people want to join in for it, they'll probably join in to have fun and be able to tell stories together. Not to have one player be the main focus and for the DM to bend over backward just to make the stupid heroic Gary Stu main character the most important thing ever. Hero and no boyfriend are the kind of people that want to join in the game to have the DM bend over backwards for them, and therefore are problem players that you really should not be entertaining in the slightest whatsoever.
And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.